Frankly, I was horrified by the coverage of Israel's retaliatory strikes on October 29th. Horrified by the headlines claiming strikes kill more than 100 in Gaza, and horrified by the mainstream media's coverage of this entire Gaza war. The mainstream media has been hijacked by Hamas, hijacked by Muslim movements that want to see Israel exterminated and the world's Jews dead. October 29th's headlines began the previous day, when Israel reported that its soldiers were attacked inside the territory allocated to them by the Trump truce. A rocket-propelled grenade and sniper bullets were fired at a group of Israeli soldiers. One Israeli fighter, a father of 5, was killed. The Israelis retaliated by attacking 30 Hamas commanders and command positions, hideouts, and weapons depots across Gaza. But remember, Hamas protects itself by surrounding its military centers with civilians. This is a war crime. The Hamas Ministry of Health, which is a propaganda arm of Hamas, claimed that 104 Palestinians had been killed, including 40 children and 20 women. But to understand this headline, you need to know something crucial. The Gaza war is being fought on 2 battlefields: the ground on which soldiers fight and the battlefield of perception. Muslim nations like Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Iran have been working to infiltrate the American mainstream media for 30 years, and they've succeeded. For example, one of the key articles on the Hamas truce violation was written by NBC's Chantal De Silva. De Silva grew up in Toronto with a Portuguese mother and a Pakistani father. Pakistan opposes Israel's very existence. Chantal's family has a history of advancing the cause of Islam. Her great-grandfather was active in the All-Indian Muslim League, a league that played a major role in cutting off a big piece of India and turning it into a Muslim state, Pakistan, at a cost of up to 2 million lives. Chantal's beat at NBC seems to be reporting on anything and everything that makes Israel look bad. But to understand what's going on in Gaza, it's also fundamental to remember what Islam means to Iran, Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis, not to mention to 3 other Islamist groups coming back to life: ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and Boko Haram. To these groups, Islam means following a command issued by Muhammad in 627 AD, a command to conquer the world. As Saif al-Din al-Ansari wrote in Al-Qaeda's online magazine, Allah told us of the certainty of the annihilation of people like you and me, the infidels, by means of the Muslim group, which would, in accordance with the Islamic commandment, torture them. The question now on the agenda is, how is the torture Allah wants done at our hands to be carried out? Starting in 2008, Hamas deliberately built 500 miles of military tunnels under the civilians of Gaza's most populous places. Hamas planted its command and control centers under hospitals, schools, and mosques. Why? Because that's where civilians gather in the greatest number, and to quote a member of Hezbollah in 1981, Islam is a tree that grows on severed limbs. In this case, the severed limbs of civilians. In other words, Hamas put its military infrastructure below civilian centers so that when Hamas would attack Israel, as it did on October 7th, 2023, and torture, rape, and kill 1,200 Israelis, Israel's Defense Force would not dare respond by hitting Hamas military centers. A popular Islamist slogan says, "We love death more than you love life." In Islam, death is not a loss, it is a gain. Why? Every Muslim citizen who dies in war is a martyr and goes directly to heaven. On the other hand, Westerners deplore the deaths of civilians. So every civilian death can be used to send Westerners into a righteous fury. Influence operations by Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Iran have inserted Muslim reporters into American news outlets from the New York Times on down. Hamas has used these journalists to turn the deaths of babies into bullets, media bullets. The result is that in the past year, polls report the condemnation of Israel has replaced love of Israel in the hearts of Americans. In other words, Hamas may be losing its war for territory, but has won the war on the battlefield of perception. This is Howard Bloom speaking to you from the future. It's your job and my job to make. Or, want to know why? Ask how. And now for that little off button.